Well, I guess I didn't think that we'd be talking about a Dragon Age sequel this soon.
Finally, the blight has returned to consume your soul! So who shall lead us this time? Who shall return the blight to glory? Is it Carl, the Archdemon's brother? Or is it Stan, that guy down the street that stole candy from a baby once? Who? Tell me.
Demon Joe, you're not in this one. Yeah.
Are you f***ing serious? God damn it!
Sorry, man. Sorry.
Dragon Age 2 goes for a more Empire Strikes Back feeling, sort of like with Mass Effect. In fact, BioWare is crafting Dragon Age more and more to be like Mass Effect when it doesn't need to be. Why can't Dragon Age do its own thing? In this sequel, there's a bit of a cliffhanger ending. I don't have a problem with these sorts of adventures, as long as this new self-contained story as Commander Shepard, Hawk, is up to par. Unfortunately, being the champion isn't all it's cracked up to be. However, my reasons are different than you might think. A lot of people's #1 complaint is the changes to gameplay. I think it's fine. Better than fine. Fantastic. It's a lot more intense. You see, I've never been a big fan of the auto attack like in MMOs. The improvements get me involved in the battle to a new degree, and it speeds things up. The over-the-top abilities and the combat animations are so gratifying, especially because you actually execute each one. I found the mage the most fun to play as because I get to throw lightning everywhere! And seeing as how 80% of the quests have to do with the Templars versus mages, I felt more pivotal to the story than say a rogue or a warrior might. As those kind of feel slightly less relevant as the story beats you over the head with this them versus us mentality. Also, great improvements were made to the UI. Everything there has been cleaned up, they're easy to navigate, and it functions great. You can make improvements to your characters along concise skill trees. The world map, which unfortunately is just one city with some outlying areas, also has a day and night cycle. The night cycle in which you can grind for experience, keeping the streets safe from thugs. And you also have some home base areas where you get new messages and world updates. Couple that with the new gameplay, and up to 30 to 40 hours, and we've got great value here. Nobody's gonna say Dragon Age 2 is too short. However, the bottom line is you expect sequels to be leagues better than the original. However, here, I think they took a lot of steps backwards in many important areas. Okay, what you got with Dragon Age 2 is a game with weaker characters, weaker story, but improved gameplay and user interface. It makes for an odd and slightly unexpected mix, especially from BioWare. And I'm not saying it's a bad game, because it's a good game. You just need to curb your expectations a bit and know that you're getting into something different from the original. Almost as if they're rebooting the series. And because that's the case, here are my personal negatives about the changes in Dragon Age 2. The art style. Now, how is it that the backgrounds and environment textures are so basic and dull? You think that if everything was limited to a single cityscape, that they would have a lot more time to put in massive amounts of detail. The buildings, the sky, the trees, even the trash that litter the street floors. But that's not the case. Now, they say they want to go for a watercolor type painting, but if you compare this to another game that's doing that, Guild Wars 2, it just doesn't measure up. Even in comparison to what people think are lesser games. This is as basic as it gets. There's no denying it, guys. And while the characters look good up close, they're too clean, even with all the bloody mess on their face. And all the other textures in the game up close are underwhelming. The characters are forgettable. There just wasn't anybody interesting enough in the sequel as there was in Origins. And why is this game a total sausage fest? There are way too many whiny, emo, preachy dudes that want to have sex with me. Thanks for helping me out back there, Devin. If you hadn't been there, I don't know what I would have done.
No problem, man. Maybe I can help you out a little bit more.
No thanks. I'm straight. I just want to say, though, that we've been on many adventures together. We've been loyal friends for over 12 years. And Dude! Put your shirt back on! No thanks, dude.
What?
Oh, come on! I hurt your feelings? There was no way out of it! There was no neutral option! Can I get some female romance options up in here? In DA2, you start off with Hawk, he himself, who is a rather boring character, with kind of a crappy voice actor. In fact, I can't even take his player model seriously because he reminds me way too much of the Sheriff of Nottingham in Men in Tights.
Oh. How dare you talk to me in that fashion? Who are you?
Then you got your brother or sister who, not surprisingly, people on social forums want to have a romance option with. Sick! As a mage, I got the annoying-ass brother.
I am not a joke. No, you're a lazy brat with a chip on your shoulder.
Then you got the barbarian He-Man woman, who's following you because her husband is dead. The pirate slut, who I'm afraid to romance because I don't want my character to get STDs. She flirts with anything that moves.
If you want, I'll even let you choose where I plant it.
A very weak pixie female elf that's a mage, who is the only other romancing option. Great, thanks.
Can I get you something to eat or drink? I have water.
I came here to see you, Meryl. You don't have to fuss over me.
Then you got the elf with swooshing white hair, a huge oversized sword. Ooh, he's dark and he's angry, with tribal tattoos. Essentially, a Final Fantasy character in our Dragon Age.
I will pay him back, in blood. You have no idea what he's done to me, what I went through just to get away.
The preachy, annoying Anders from Dragon Age Awakening, who never shuts up about being oppressed.
You don't like me, Carver?
I don't like you.
That's unfortunate. Hating someone just because they're a mage is a shameful thing.
I don't hate you because you're a mage. I hate you because you won't shut up about it.
Story. The dwarf without a beard knows apparently a lot of stories that he never really tells you, and apparently is this suave man hunk. But at least the guy is loyal and a good friend, and he doesn't complain every 5 seconds about stuff. Oh yeah, and then there's another dude, the Prince DLC character, because they forgot they needed an archer for $7 more. Thanks. And that's pretty much it for characters. Your dog's back as a summon this time. That's incredibly smart. But then we get to the real meat and bones. The story. What BioWare is known for. Now I gotta say, the storytelling didn't bother me much, like I thought it would. It's kind of cool actually. Sometimes Varric will overstate and over-exaggerate what actually happened, like this one part where he takes on like a bunch of dudes with Bianca single-handedly. Though it is kind of annoying after a story jump when people come up to you and they're like, "Hey Hawk, how's it going? What's up, buddy?" And you're all like, "Dude, I don't know you. What the fuck are you?" But the rest of it, you're basically babysitting your family and doing chores for everybody else around the city, as opposed to becoming a Grey Warden and fighting off the impossible odds of the Blight masses and the Archdemon himself. Now, Finding a serial killer or making a mine safe for workers may be alright for some, but it's not what I was looking forward to doing. It seems like busy work instead of the work of a champion. The story can be summed up without spoilers in 3 big events: the Deep Roads, the Quinari, and the Templars vs. Mages. The problem is, by the end, all of these end up relatively unresolved, and the journey through each one isn't up to par. Combine those letdowns with even more dumbing down of the RPG elements, like replacing crafting or removing the ability to customize your companion's armor set. The continuing corridors, even worse in this game. You return to the same reused areas over and over. It's really hard to give this game a glowing recommendation. If you've never played Dragon Age, you're better off starting with Origins. It's the better game. Now, I wanted to give this game a lower score because of how disappointingly it seems to have evolved, especially when you look at the huge leap forward in other games like Two Worlds 1 to Two Worlds 2. Perhaps this is all because of the relatively short development cycle of only about 1.5 years. But when it came down to the final verdict, I just couldn't do it. It's Dragon Age. Dragon Age 2 is a good game, period. I just wanted to share those reasons for why it didn't match the original, which I gave a 9 out of 10. The sequel improves on combat, interface, and has a few more interesting side and secondary quests than the original had. But the things that invest you in the game, your player character, your story, your companion characters, all leave something to be desired. My final verdict then for the game is a 7 out of 10. It is a great game despite all of its faults. As a fan of the original who doesn't mind the combat change and the fantasy setting in general, this one is worth playing through. You will get your money's worth. But I don't think that I'll be giving this particular game all the multiple playthroughs that I did for the original. So that's it for Dragon Age 2. I want to know your opinions on the game. Did it disappoint you, or are people being crazy and it's much better than the original? Let me know in the comments. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next Angry Joe Show.
Time for romance, my dear. Consider this foreplay. A chastity belt? Oh, that's going to chafe my willy.